So borrowing money is just a fact of life for most of us. We'll borrow for a mortgage for our house, we'll borrow on a car loan or multiple car loans, and the easiest money to borrow is on credit cards. Problem is, with credit cards, they generally have a very high interest rate, and when you don't pay it off immediately, it ends up trapping you because now you're keeping higher balances, which drives your credit score down. It's a vicious cycle which traps a lot of people. Well, that's where Upstart comes in. Upstart goes beyond the traditional FICO score when assessing your credit worthiness. They reward you based on your education and job history in the form of a smarter interest rate. They make it fast, simple, and easy to check your rate in just a few minutes. The best part, once the loan is approved, most people get their funds the very next business day. See why Upstart is ranked #1 in their category with over 300 businesses on Trustpilot. Free yourself from the burden of high-interest credit card debt by consolidating everything into one monthly payment with Upstart. So visit upstart.com/SSR. There's a link below in the description. It's upstart.com/SSR to see what your smart rate is today. All right, everybody, Rob Ferretti here, and we're going to talk about the Mustang Mach-E. Now, it just came out, and it's causing a little bit of an uproar for some of the right reasons, some of the wrong reasons. I don't get let's just start by saying I think it's a good thing that Ford came out with an EV. I think it's good. They've waited. They've come out with crap hybrids and everything like that, but they've slept on this for a while. They let GM take some half-assed attempt at it, and that's really what GM did. So Ford is the first sort of major player other than Tesla and the Porsche, which is like in another league, to come out with what you could consider to be a mass market electric vehicle. Now, GM failed miserably. But Ford is delivering a car that I could see a lot of people buying. And unfortunately, some people would disagree, saying that you've screwed it up. And I don't know why all these manufacturers do this. They called it the Mustang. And I get it. Like, oh yeah, we used to sell the Camaros back in the 60s. We used to sell this. Let's just keep regurgitating this. But when you start with the Supra and everything like that, you start just using in the NSX. You start using a nameplate and just slapping it on anything, thinking that's going to increase sales. The electric car would stand alone no matter what you called it. Like, you could call it the Ford electric car. People will buy it because what an electric car is and what people are looking for out of an electric car is functionality. They don't want to pay for gas. They get a tax credit. It's good for the environment if that's something people are concerned about. But at the end of the day, you're making what is effectively a pedestrian car to go from point A to point B. Naming it something that you've had for almost 50 years now. Is it 50 years? Going back into the 60s, they've had Mustangs. And everybody knows exactly what a Mustang is. This isn't a Mustang, so why would you call it a Mustang? Adding the Mach-E at the end, and now reading that there's going to be like a Shelby variant, people want something that's got good range, it actually delivers the range. Nobody's buying it for performance. And that I think is the misconception, that people are going in the wrong direction trying to make performance electric vehicles. Because people interested in performance want more than just pump some noise through my car so it sounds like an engine. That's not what people want. You're calling it a Mustang and putting electric stuff in it doesn't do it. I don't think that benefits or helps your cause. If you want to sell an electric car, make it reliable. I like the fact that with the battery capacity and the battery pack, I think it will be an SUV with a good low center of gravity. I think that a big common problem that American car makers have when it comes to making SUVs is it's generally sort of a high center of gravity, and it's usually pretty sloppy on the road. With both the four-wheel drive and the low center of gravity, I think it'll actually handle pretty well and do pretty good for what you're looking to do with it. It's, I want to say, a blatant ripoff of Tesla, because like the car, everything sort of looks like a Tesla. The screen in the center, everything. But like, I don't think that's a problem. These cars are going to be cookie cutter. An electric car is not really designed to, let's just say, spark emotion. It's designed to get you from point A to point B without using gas and sort of help the environment. The tax credit's a benefit. Now, that's something that the fact that GM was like fobbling around and making these crappy EV vehicles, and I liked my Volt for what it was, but the Bolt is a train wreck. I don't think the Bolt is a good vehicle at all, and it doesn't appeal to me. It's really a crap GM plastic car with a battery, with an extended range battery, and it doesn't even have that great of a range. And to be fair, it's a fairly ugly car. So you have a crap quality car, and all they're doing now by dabbling around in this is when they do deliver a car that people want, the electric tax credit is going to be disappearing. And if you're not familiar, I'm sure you should be familiar with it, but the electric tax credit, you know what, let me toss you guys up on a tripod. There we go. Didn't make a lot of sense to hold the camera in my hand. So using up the electric tax credit doesn't make a lot of sense because you're now using it on cars. So when you do hit a home run and put out a good car that people want, you're losing that advantage that the government gives a tax credit for the first 200,000, that's a lot, first 200,000 electric vehicles that each manufacturer produces. So Ford would get 200,000 cars, Chevy would get 200,000 cars, a lot, Audi, all of these. But when you want to deliver a car, you want it to come with a car that you want people to sort of get in line to buy, and that's a big thing. I think Ford overpriced this car a little bit. I don't care what the statistics are, like 0 to 60 or anything like that, because that's all irrelevant. But starting at $43,000, all they're doing now is they're a little late in the game to do that because I think Tesla has a better namesake as sort of a luxury car. They've been doing it. They've got that good hipster appeal to it, that people want to drive a Tesla. If you're going to pay more to sell a Ford versus a Tesla, I don't get it. And I don't consider the Mach-E, which is like a mid-size SUV, it's not going to compete with the Model X, which A, gets more range, the doors go up. You get stuff like that people are going to gravitate towards, but it costs twice as much. So I think Ford is like starting, and they'll probably come out with more cars in the electric range, but this is like, all right, nobody seems to be in that mid-size all-electric SUV range, let's just jump right in there. But they're doing the same thing that other manufacturers are doing. They're going to start with the intro model. Like, this model is for the people that really want it, but it's going to be over $60,000. And calling it a Mustang, calling it whatever you want, isn't going to sell that car at $60,000. I think people like with the Model 3, they're going to wait. They'll sit like, hey, you know what, sit on the order. I don't want that. I want to get the cheaper variant. And electric cars have a lot going for them right now. The stuff that turns me on, that would make me buy an electric car, is that they're virtually maintenance-free. You don't have to swap the brakes as often because you do a lot of regenerative braking. The car sort of warms up very quickly. Everything happens very quickly with the electric car. And if it's got usable range, sufficient range, which to me, anything over 200 miles and actual 200 miles, even 150, is usable range. That is perfectly acceptable for me to sort of go about my day. And as these charging networks start developing, I think the Mustang, it'll give you 50 miles in 10 minutes, which that's 10 minutes. Like, anyone can go grab a cup of coffee for 10 minutes to get 50 miles. That'll get you home. That'll get you a long way. So there are these things, these hurdles that they're crossing, making the electric cars more desirable. There's people with 300,000 miles on their car, and the batteries are still holding up. And the fact that these cars can go that distance with very little maintenance expense is quite appealing. And the fact that they'll also keep their value more, because one of the things that drives down car values is the fact that there's going to be a big maintenance component to it once it's out of warranty. If you think about the complexity of the transmissions and the engines and all the 10,000 parts that make up the Lamborghini behind me, there's a lot that can break. There's a lot of weak links. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And you don't really have that with effectively a fancy golf cart. You have a big battery, and as long as the battery doesn't catch fire or get punctured, it seems to be pretty reliable. You're going to run into the electric glitches or the electric gremlins on early cars possibly, because that just seems to be something that happens with all car models, is that the early cars have electrical issues, a screen goes out or whatnot. We had that on our McLaren. The screen went out, which was the McLaren, I think, was the first car that I was in. I was like, oh, look, it's like an iPad behind the dash there, which was a 12C. And even within a year, that went bad, And when we brought it in, they're like, I'm sorry, that's been discontinued. Well, we can upgrade you to the 650S one, but you have to pay for the labor. I'm like, I don't want it. You should give me an old one that works. I just want what it was, but working. And ultimately, I won that battle where they said like, oh, okay, we'll upgrade it and we'll cover the labor. So that all sorted itself out. But the cars themselves are relatively trouble-free. I know a lot of people with cars, and there's, of course, going to be a batch of lemons, people complaining about it. But there are fewer moving parts, low center of gravity, quick to warm up, good reliability, good like lack of maintenance. And there's a lot of safety features that you're going to have on these. The regenerative braking is good for slowing a car down. The self-driving, being aware of where the other cars are, making the driver alert to where other cars are. Just these driver's aids and driver assists with the cameras looking around. There's good visibility. There's a lot, and there's not a lot of like random noises to distract you from what's going on. I think that the electric cars, and it took a while to swing me, the electric cars are going to be a foundation of pedestrian transportation. Now, in the future. And there will still be sports cars. I don't think there's ever going to be people that don't want gasoline cars, at least not while I'm alive. But in the next 50 years, I think a larger segment will switch over to electric cars. So am I a buyer on one of these cars? I don't know. I'm not going to rush out. I'm more of a sedan guy, so if I can get something like my Volt, which could be pedestrian looking, $27,000, $29,000 car with a tax credit, get it in the low 20s, I'm all over that. I'll cross my fingers for the next cycle of auto shows, and hopefully something like that pops up. Do I care so much that they called it the Mustang? I personally don't. I don't get offended by it, but I think it's pretty stupid. I mean, Ford started out with the Model T, maybe. As we're jumping generations from gas to electric, the Model E. Like, you see where I'm going with that, Ford? Just I'll take the check. I'll give you my address. I'll put it below. You can send me the check for that one. I just fire your entire marketing department, because the unimaginative people that get paid lots of money to just recycle these names over and over again and literally beat to death the namesake of the Mustang, of the NSX, of the Supra, of every movie franchise that, like, we got to do the sequel before everyone in the original cast dies. Like, I get it. It just be creative and come up with some new stuff versus recycling the stuff that we rush to go buy because, like, oh, I like that name. I couldn't buy one when I was a kid. I'll buy one now. Do I think the Mustang, or whatever you want to call it, the Ford Model E, I'm going to call it the Model E, is a good move? Absolutely. Am I a buyer? It depends what this next cycle of auto shows puts out. If they put out a sedan, I'll sort of lean towards that. I feel like I'm going to kick myself if I don't buy a car and use one of these $7,500 tax credits for a reasonably priced electric vehicle. At the end of the day, for the $75,000 or $100,000 cars, getting $7,500 off doesn't entice me. But at $30,000 to save almost 10% on the vehicle, that's what I'm talking about right there. So stop focusing on Shelby modified electric cars. Electric cars, pedestrian, staple foundation to a company. Then you make your sports cars that everybody's going to be like, oh yeah, I'll go buy my pedestrian electric car. And then my fun sports car, because that's what I want. Ford focus on that. Everybody complaining about the Model E being called the Mustang. Don't know what to tell you. I sort of agree with you, but I don't really care enough about Mustangs to sort of grab my pitchfork and join in. Thanks for watching. Rob Ferretti. See you tomorrow. For those of you not familiar with my other company, I started a company called Adventure Drives, which combines driving and bucket list travel. It's a lot of fun. If you're interested, prices can be done per person. Don't worry if you don't have somebody to go with you. We can match you up with somebody. You can check the link in the description for adventuredrives.com and sign up today.